Elon Musk and Nassim Taleb think there's going to be a bloodbath in the real estate market. Are they right? So on this video, I'm going to talk about Nassim Taleb, the author of The Black Swan, and Elon Musk, who both think there's going to be a bloodbath in real estate markets. Now, before doing that, go over to adamfad.com, especially if you're an expat or a high net wealth individual and want to get a conversation started. Now, a few days ago, I was watching a video from Nassim Taleb online, and also I saw Elon Musk predicting the same thing, that basically he thought that the real estate market was going to crash and burn because of real estate inflated prices and also interest rates going up. Now, are they right or are they wrong? Now, obviously no one can predict the future, but what we can look at is some of the variables here. So on evaluation metrics, in some countries, valuations just look far too high. So South Korea, China, mainland China, Hong Kong, probably New Zealand, maybe Australia too. Also some major big cities in the US and some other places as well. And when it comes to those markets, they are going to be very affected potentially by higher interest rates. So we're already seeing that in the UK. So in the UK, for example, many people are going to be affected by these higher interest rates, which are going to be fed through to mortgage rates. And we're already seeing prices go down. And in some other markets, it's more extreme. So I think in Seoul, in South Korea, property prices are already down about 20%. They've been struggling in China and Hong Kong for quite some time. Now, I do think there's a very good chance that property prices will have to fall in many markets, especially adjusted to inflation, because ultimately, long-term, property can't actually outstrip wages and inflation forever. Because if you think about it, if the average inflation rate is 2%, and the average wage growth is 2 or 3%, and the average property price rise is 5 to 10%. If that keeps happening forever, eventually nobody's going to be able to afford property. And that's only sustainable and has historically only been sustainable in markets where most rich people are able to gobble up the property. So for example, maybe in some big international cities or a place like Monaco, where there's only a small number of houses, that's possible. Or maybe even in London or New York, that's possible. But in an average town or city in most countries in the world, unless wealthy people literally are able to buy up the whole stock of property, long-term, property cannot go up above wages by a substantial amount forever. Now, there was a time when that happened, but that's often because women joined the workforce, so household income went up. But now that most households are a two-income household, I think long-term property prices have to kind of be in line with wage growth. And in some countries, that has got completely out of control. With that being said, even though I agree with their analysis about property prices in many countries, I do also think there are opportunities, because when you look at what's happened since 2007, 2008, it's a misconception to say that all property prices have gone up all around the world. So for example, take the UK. London property prices in some major places around London and some big cities have gone up a lot, but actually adjusted for inflation, many places have never recovered from 2007 or 2008 in the UK. And I think the US is relatively similar. If you take away the Miamis of this world, the New Yorks of this world, the big places, there are plenty of places in the US where the prices of houses relative to inflation and relative to wages is lower or the same as, say, 20 years ago. And internationally as well, there's been some huge differences. So Shenzhen, Shanghai, and many places around the world have seen huge price increases, even adjusted for inflation, whereas Dubai and some other places have actually seen sometimes falling property prices. Yes, ups and downs, and right now there's an up, but basically there's some international cities where, because of 2 or 3 crashes, the prices are basically where they were 20 years ago, adjusted for inflation or thereabouts. So what I think is more likely to happen, as opposed to just a global crash, which is going to affect all markets like 2008, I think increasingly investors are going to be more selective about where they buy. I think they're going to want more bargains. And we've already started to see that. So say 1 or 2 years ago, what we saw is during COVID, when more people could work from home, people were selling their properties in the Londons and New Yorks of this world, buying properties in smaller places. But also I think investors as well will become more selective about price. And I think if they're worried about a global shock to the real estate market, they're less likely to buy in those big cities where the price is already inflated. And the same thing when it comes to things like real estate investment trusts, REITs. Actually, if you look at it, globally, some of them are still very cheap. So I don't see a 2008 style crash, which is going to affect almost every country, almost any part of real estate. But I do think it's likely that many countries will see falling real estate prices. And what's going to happen though is those people who want real estate are going to become more selective about what kind of real estate to buy in what kind of markets, and they might actually start looking more sensibly at things like the rental yield rather than just looking at potential capital value gains.
Depends on every person's individual goals, how much money they want to invest, how long they want to invest. And I did not have at all the feeling from any bank with which I had contact with that they were interested in these things. Whereas with you, it was from the very beginning obvious to me that you had experience in these matters and also were interested in what I wanted to achieve.
Anyways, I'm very, very pleased and positive to say that I believe I've picked the right one. The results in the last couple of years have overreached my expectations by far. And I see no reason why it should not continue. Of course, I can highly recommend him as your financial advisor for now and for the future, because hesitating is missing out.
So I'm investing a lot in the Middle East market, but the amount of returns I'm getting from there is very low as per the amount of returns I'm getting from the investment portfolio which you made for me. Obviously, the best result in market right now is Adam.